The challenge is in AI, you need to be able to go deep on the skill sets. So you need to know what technologies, again, people are capable of using and understand how to ask the right questions in the interview process to determine whether they've actually used it or not. Right?
And Darius, a lot of founders right now are trying to hire AI engineers, but they can figure out the right model. What's the biggest mistake you see them make?
Yeah, I think the mistake that founders are making is hiring based on a process that they're already familiar with, whether they use an internal or external recruiter. AI, it's a different flavor of hiring than what we've traditionally seen, right? It's a new skill set and there are new requirements, new demands on the job. Also, it's the most sought after skill set. So thinking about the outcome you want is a better practice for determining how you actually hire. Whether you work with an agency, whether you use an in-house team, whether you have a talent market or work with a talent marketplace, those are considerations that have different implications, and not understanding the implications, simply going with what you're most familiar with, is generally where we start to see mistakes.
Before we get into when each model worked, can you tell me a little bit about each of these models that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so in-house is what it sounds like, right? You got your own recruiting team, and that recruiting team is responsible for going out and finding the proper talent that can fill the role, can build the product, right? You can also use an agency, right? So this is an external recruiter that can be a generalist or a specialist. And they would, on your behalf, go out and find the talent. Some companies choose to do that because their internal team is too busy, right? They generally, recruiters also work in HR and have other responsibilities. Or they can use a specialist team, which has essentially like more specific skill sets around finding a certain type of talent. And the other thing is a marketplace. There's two flavors of those, right? So one is a marketplace where you actually go out, you post a job and see what resumes come back to you. And then there are other marketplaces where you can actually log into a platform and look through the existing talent that is on that marketplace.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. Let's go through each one. Like, when does each kind of a model make sense?
Yeah. So I would say if you have an in-house team and that team has bandwidth to hire AI talent, right? So you have recruiters that both have bandwidth and understand AI roles, right? We're talking about roles that have very unique skill sets that are evolving as new technology comes out. So that recruiter has to be able to understand if someone fits the role, as well as have the time to actually go out there and source resumes, which is a whole nother challenge, just given how AI is being used to create resumes. Recruiters are getting bombarded with job submissions. But in the case where you do have an in-house team, they have the experience to recruit AI talent and they understand the specs for what is required in the role in that specific company, I think it makes a lot of sense to go that route. The challenge is whether they have the time or they have the specialization. In a marketplace scenario, huh, I again, you could have your internal recruiting team use a marketplace, post a job to the marketplace to get resumes. That's one way to do it. But there's also, like I mentioned, platforms that have a host of candidates. I think there's something to think about with that, right? One, you have to know what you're looking for if you're on the platform, and then hope the platform has that type of talent, right? Because they've got this library of individuals who are on the platform. The other thing to think about is what type of employee or what type of worker, what type of talent you expect this person to be. People who generally join a lot of those platforms intend to be gig work. What I mean by that is they don't view the next role as a career decision. It's more of a project based type of role. So if you want someone who's going to be on your team for years, I'm not saying that the people on those platforms aren't talented and wouldn't take a full-time role, because there are absolute, and I know of cases of people who have done that, engineers who take that route. But also, if you're looking on the spectrum of someone who wants to be full time, a part of a team over the long term, versus someone who absolutely wants to be doing their own thing, running their own projects. The people who are on marketplaces are generally more along the lines of being project focused, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. It just needs to fit the model, fit the hiring type that you're actually pursuing, right? And so in the case of AI, if you have very well defined specs, you've got senior leadership that knows how to guide talent, it may be a great idea for you to get talent from that particular pool of talent. It may also make sense if you need someone who's very senior. It's really hard to hire those people, by the way. Like the people who have been in data science for over a decade or have a machine learning engineering degree for over, like those people are very hard to find. And so you may go to a marketplace to find that person so that they can fill an advisory role, right? They may not come on as a full time, long term part of the team, but that's just a decision. The last thing is the agency option. So you got the generalist. I would say in AI, generalist is probably not going to be the way to go, right? Because they're not going to do much better than what an in-house team could do. They source more than just AI. They're sourcing probably like accounting. They're sourcing legal. So they have their value because of their exposure to a lot of different job types. The challenge is in AI, you need to be able to go deep on the skill sets. So you need to know what technologies, again, people are capable of using and understand how to ask the right questions in the interview process to determine whether they've actually used it or not. Right. So I think that those are some of the things that differentiate between, I should say, differ between what model fits in what scenario.
That's close to the next question, that is, in most of these AI roles, companies are still having problems to pick the right model or to define how to find the right candidates. Like, what could be the best step to do the process, and how Tesoro AI fit that picture?
Yeah, I should just say our process is the right process. I think we do things in a very specific way, right? Most of the people we work with are very busy. They themselves don't have a lot of time to sift through a ton of resumes before trying to find someone who may or may not be a fit. Additionally, people are hiring out of Latin America, so there's other hurdles that candidate has to clear before they actually interview with our partners. And so for that reason, we're not sending 40 resumes. We're sending 5 pre-vetted resumes of candidates who have already passed that vetting process, and we can assure that they are going to be quality, right? So if we send 5 resumes, we expect that our client is going to at least 3, should be 4 or 5, right? Because we've gone through the process of already determining whether this person is a fit. But if you're looking for more of junior level talent, right, that's a different scenario because that person generally is not going to know a lot to be able to hop into a system and be able to create immediate value. But there are people who say, hey, we've got this project. We need to hire 30 junior level engineers. It is a low retention position, right? That's generally not the lane that we focus on because you can accomplish that by posting a job yourself, right? A customer can accomplish that by posting a job him or herself or going to more generalists, right? Because if it's entry level, you don't need to be a specialist to determine whether someone entry level. You're more so sourcing for intangible qualities, and that's it, versus intangible as well as technique within AI. So I think that creates a little bit of differentiation between why one model works and one doesn't.
And definitely each model applies for different scenarios. And we in Tesoro AI have the capability to also work using different models and moving across all of them to pick the right candidates. For example, we also work with in-house recruited, and you don't need to just have Tesoro AI to make the process. If you already have an inside recruiting team, we can work together and find the right talent, focus on the necessities that you have. If you are trying to figure out what's the best model and would you want to know more about Tesoro AI, feel free to book a call with us.